Hello, everyone. We will just wait a minute to get some people in the chat, if there's anyone kicking around. So I thought I'd just do this random little live stream because I recently said I'd start doing these more, and people seem to like them. And I quite enjoy just running through the news and just discussing it with random people. And also, I put a poll out recently and asked people what they wanted to hear from me, and a lot of it was about me, weirdly. So I'm willing to answer some questions about myself as well, if that's what people want. I might not answer some of them if I deem them inappropriate or if I just don't really want to talk about them. But yeah, I think this could be an interesting exercise. So what we're going to do is we're going to just go through the feed on Twitter, on the Ring magazine, because they still run it exactly like Michael Benson did. They just collate news basically, and it's all Ring branded and whatnot, but it is essentially just a curated feed of all the latest boxing news. So I'm going to pull that up, and I want people to watch the recording of this, so I might as well, from the off, let this flow. So let me just unhide that. There we go. So, don't do that. So I thought that we could start by just working our way through this feed. I'm not really interested in that. Now, this is quite an interesting one. This is quite an interesting thing. Before I get into that, I'll just answer some of the comments. What's your thoughts and feelings on TKO? Well, Nitsage. I'm gonna talk about that right now with this post from the Ring. And we got another one. I'm not even going to try and say your name. I remember you. Yo, how you doing, Henry? I am good, mate. How are you? I hope you're very, very well. So this post here from the Ring says, Turki Al-Sheikh responds to a circulating article regarding the TKO League. The article is not factually accurate. I think Gary Jonas should focus on his business in Florida because he doesn't want the FTC to call him again. I'm wondering what is the structure of his business model with the rehab facilities and boxing. What does this relate to, I wonder? I've not read this article. So maybe we should find the article. Let's see, where is the article? Here we go, right. The article is called Everything We Know So Far About the New TKO League. Let me make this so you guys can read it as well. There we go. And I'll just make it a bit smaller so it doesn't cover me. There we go. Right, let's have a read of this. So I would like to just skim read this. So a glimpse into the new TKO boxing franchise will operate. How it will operate has begun taking shape. According to boxing authorities who have reviewed documents presented to fighters, a managerial arm has been formed to support the circuit, funded by Turki Al-Sheikh and run by TKO and UFC CEO Dana White for a $10 million annual fee. That new company lists former top rank Harrison Whitman and CAA agent Ishmael Hinson as its partners and has initiated contact with fighters, forwarding contract terms that reveal some of the plans according to documents reviewed by Boxing Scene. White said in a recent podcast interview with a veteran boxing journalist Dan Raphael of Big Fight Weekend that there's over 150 guys we're looking to sign. White said he wants to also limit the number of divisions, likely keeping the traditional classes flyweight, bantamweight, featherweight, lightweight, welterweight, middleweight, light heavyweight, and heavyweight. One of the contracts reviewed by Boxing Scene showed both a purse structure and the intended reliance on company rankings, although Al-Sheikh clarified in a recent speaking appearance on X that the new league's rankings would be separate from those traditionally posted for all weight classes by the Ring magazine, which he owns. With the Ring magazine, will keep its legacy of 103 years and not be involved in any of these things. This is something separate. Still, the company paying fighters to compete while also setting the rankings troubles some veteran fight officials who were canvassed about the situation this week. One said this is why sanctioning bodies and the federal regulation of boxing exist. While there's long been criticism of the four sanctioning bodies for watering down what it means to be champion, basing earnings on rating slots is an endeavor ripe for manipulation and meddling by business people, and it opens a new type of Pandora's box. In one of the proposed contracts, Hualapi Ventures reports that fighters who join the firm will be paid $5,000 within 3 days of their signing. The fighters who join to commit a 3-year term following their first bout and must stay on board for 2 years following their signing, described as the effective date in the contract. Okay. I mean, these don't sound like out of the ordinary boxing terms so far. We'll go through the whole article, though, and then we'll talk about it. The TKO boxing venture isn't expected to stage its first card until sometime in 2026, the company announced in a news release. The company shall guarantee the boxer the opportunity to participate in bouts every 5 months during the term commencing with the first bout, and shall make good faith efforts to offer boxers the opportunity to participate in 4 bouts during the first year. Okay. So the contract stipulates that purses will be increased based on a fighter's ability to crack the top 10 of the company and climb the rankings. $20,000 for a 10-round bout by an unranked fighter, $50,000 when ranked by the company at 5 to 10, $125,000 when ranked by the company 3 to 4, $375,000 when challenging for company championship, $750,000 when defending company championship. Now, straight away, some of you are going to hear those numbers and think, $750,000 to defend your championship. Doesn't sound great, does it? And but the thing is, it's the UFC model. It's capped earnings. For some fighters, that's pretty normal. Some world champions don't really have much commercial pool. A lot of these are like normal numbers for a normal fighter. But can you imagine telling Canelo Alvarez you're going to make $750,000 for defending your championship? That's a bit of an issue. And the idea for them will be to, over time, gather more and more talent. These numbers might not stay the same. This is probably based on what they think they'll be signing. And they're going to try and sign guys who probably are making that much or less. So does it really affect things right now? Not really. But capped earnings in boxing is quite it's a new concept. It's a bit of a troubling one, to be honest with you. It kind of takes it away from that American dream sort of sport, which we all see boxing as being at the moment. So, yeah. So let's have a look at the rest of the article. Some veteran fight officials canvassed by boxing scene say this pay scale indicates these TKO league fighters will be younger and mid-level boxers. Exactly. White said on Rafael's podcast that matchmakers and scouts are among his most needed hires. Okay. So he's obviously looking for new talent. Fair enough. Now there's some chat about the Ali Act. No attorney general has ever brought a case for violations of the Muhammad Ali Act. So if there was some dispute over this, it'd have to be a fighter bringing the claim. But if Harrison issued the managers, who's going to fund the lawsuit? A veteran boxing attorney asked on the condition. This is the thing. You're not supposed to have the same manager and the same promoter because that's a conflict of interest. It's not good. You don't want that. And the fact that they've supposedly set up this management company in affiliation with the promotional outfit is a bit tricky. Just going to skim the rest of it because it's kind of... yeah, same stuff. They're not against working with other people, apparently, but they also came out at the beginning and said they were, which I would go off of what they said at the beginning, to be honest, rather than backtracking and realizing that might be a bit difficult as they transition over to this boxing league. Yeah, okay. I'll probably make a video on this because it's quite interesting. But basically, Turki Al-Sheikh's come out and said it's not true. Whether that is him being truthful or not remains to be seen. Let me just resize that. So yeah, interesting. Well, my feelings about the league are that, in principle, it's not a bad idea, but capping the earnings of fighters is not good. I think it's a bit, it's risky in a way because it enables boxing to remain the same. Fighters will not want to sign and have their earnings capped. It's not something they're going to be interested in. So, you'd much rather try and become the next star of the sport and still earn the money that they're offering if you're just a normal fighter. It doesn't really make sense financially at the moment. They've only been able to attract fighters so far over to Saudi because of the massive purses that they're paying. And unless they can offer some serious financial incentives, that's just how it's going to stay. Fighters will go where the most money is. If TKO aren't offering the most money, they're not, and this is why everyone's sitting pretty and calm and confident, so they're going to have to pay so much money to buy the sport. I think they're going to have to make a giant investment for about 5 to 10 years. And then maybe they can lock in a more fixed pricing structure once they own everything. But even look with the UFC, there's fighters that have jumped ship to come and box, to go to Bellator or whatever it is. So actually, it's not a given. It's not a given that the fighters will go. Have a look at the comments. I'll name this account later. If you boxed, what would your walkout song be? Probably something. Well, you want to get the crowd gassed, don't you? And it needs to be something from my era. So maybe I bet that You Look Good on the Dance Floor by the Arctic Monkeys or something like that. I think that would be a cool ring walk song. Everybody loves that song. Everybody gets gassed when it comes on. So maybe that. Would a British fighter rather fight under the TKO brand for those type of figures instead of fighting for Matchroom Queensberry undercard on a Saturday fight night? No, that's exactly what I was just saying, mate. There's no difference. If the pay is the same, then what are we doing here? You know, you're going to have to buy the sport. So there'll be a giant initial investment. And yeah, I guess the idea is to try and find the next star, get them locked into this league. But at the end of the day, it's not going to work because there's just going to be contract disputes and legal issues. But if fighters will want to leave if they get the opportunity to do so, and they could be paid more. So not great. Mithrando, how are you, mate? Maybe no one should own everything in sport. Monopolies are bad. Yeah, I mean, there's a fine line with it, right? I mean, other sports, football, for example, there's many leagues. They operate in different territories, which is what separates them. And they all own their own individual market based on geography. But the Premier League even steals attention from all over the world. So some of the national leagues don't even own their country. I think the main thing is that there's equal opportunity for everybody to thrive in that environment. I think PSR is the equivalent of what you'd sort of see. So it's difficult, especially when boxing is already the way it is. Why would anybody want to earn less money? No one does, but I think it probably is. It's a secure thing for those middle of the road fighters, and it allows them to get some security. And those guys might become the next stars. I guess that's what they're sort of banking on and hoping for. So it's a difficult one. I'm not really too sure. Have you boxed before? So I've talked about this before. My experience in boxing is I've done a fair amount of technical training. Obviously, I watch loads of boxing, as you know that, and I'm more of an analyst than I am a fighter by a massive stretch. But basically, I've done a fair amount of technical training. I've sparred a little bit, and this year for me, actually, I want to make it as a content series, but I'm going to do it either way. It's just hard to film, but this year I want to see how good I can get, basically. So I've joined a proper gym finally, and I'm training with the intention of just seeing how much I can improve. I've got a lot of issues with my feet. It's my biggest problem. I've got very hypermobile feet, so I cramp a lot, which has always sort of slowed me down. But yes, I have done quite a bit of boxing training, technical work, pad work, that sort of thing, bag work. It's been the main way I've stayed fit for quite a long time. But I've not sparred enough. And the series I want to do will be how good can I get over the age of 30? I'm 34 now. So yeah, that's basically my experience. It's very minimal. But I love the sport. I immerse myself in the sport, and yeah, that's pretty much it. And I need to. The big thing for me is I have a good technical understanding. I'm gonna keep training because I need to and take more classes because I need to brush up more on some of the. I'm missing some fundamentals in the way that I do things. I might be able to tell you what someone should do, but I can't necessarily do it myself because I haven't practiced enough. But I have a decent understanding. The big thing for me is sparring more because there's no substitute for having someone standing in front of you trying to punch you in the face while you try and implement all the things you think you know. So yeah. Nitsudge, the figures seem all right in my opinion. I feel the idea is to kind of create like a Misfits type of thing, but with legitimate pros, somewhere for fringe contenders and novices. This is the thing, mate. They're okay if you need those guarantees. They're okay if you need those guarantees because you haven't got a secure income. But the question is, can they sign some pretty high level guys that are coming through, at the beginning of their careers? It's similar to what Chelsea are doing with their contracts, where they're giving these guys these really, really long contracts and locking them in at a lower wage because the long-term safety is more interesting to them, knowing that they've got their salary secured for the next, 8 years or whatever it is, rather than risk it all and go for the big numbers, which as a footballer you can do because you can be transferred. In boxing, they'll actually be locked in. That's the problem. So the idea is that the numbers are fine right now, but they might not be when some of those guys get a bit bigger. And that's exactly what you've seen with the UFC. Guys that Conor McGregor, for example, he's outgrown the UFC. He's much more famous and much bigger than the UFC, and he wants to earn more money. Hence why he went and boxed Floyd Mayweather. So this is the balance they're going to have to try and figure out. Personally, I don't really think it's going to work. I think they're going to have to put in huge investment. Huge investment. I think the quality of boxing in that league will not be great for a while because the guys that are good right now are not going to sign with that league unless there's some kind of, well, massive financial incentive. That's the only way. Would you fight another YouTuber on a Misfits card? No. No, I wouldn't fight on Misfits. I just don't have any interest in it. If I have a fight, I will do a proper fight. I will do a proper amateur fight. I mean, it's an interesting one because I don't really like amateur boxing that much. It's stylistically so different from the pros. But I guess for me, it's more about legitimacy. And I just find those Misfits cards to be very theatrical. And I don't know, it's just not the kind of thing I want to do. Yeah, it's not for me. I mean, the only reason that I would do that would be if it was for loads and loads of money. And I'm not very famous or well known, so I don't think I'm going to get offered very much. So yeah, no, I wouldn't fight on a Misfits card. KO, I think Eubank may actually be in trouble for this fight, mate. I think you should do a film study for Ben versus Orozco. I actually think that was a really good performance. I will be doing a game film analysis for Eubank Ben. I may even do a couple because I do want to analyze Conor Ben a bit more. I'm not that impressed by Conor Ben. When he went on that run before he popped, he was looking very, very explosive, but I would want to actually sit down and watch him properly and slow everything down. I've watched his fights, but it's different when you actually take the time to really analyze someone. So I want to have a think about Conor Ben, and we'll see. But it just depends what Eubank's got left. If Eubank has got enough left, he will win. But that's my feeling. I might be very wrong. Also, great work. Love the channel. Deserves more coverage. Thank you very much, mate. I do appreciate you saying that. Michael Lynch, big up, mate. How are you? Hi, mate. Was going to go and watch Haney versus Garcia back, but put that on pause. Why is that? Why would you put Haney Garcia on pause? I mean, I think it's good to watch because it was a great performance, but it's like, it doesn't count. So it's one of them. A guy called Henry versus Wade. Mate, I think Wade is pretty massive, isn't he? How big is Wade Concept? I think he's like a heavyweight or something, isn't he? Yeah, he's 6'5". Are you mad? He's like bigger than some heavyweights. What does he weigh though? What does he weigh? Cruiserweight. Yeah, he's huge, mate. Mate, I'm like 5'9", and I walk around consistently at like 72, 73 kilos. So I think I might be in trouble. Yeah, let's not do that. David, hello chat. Yes, hello to all the chat. Which football team do you support? I'm a die-hard Chelsea fan. I've always supported Chelsea. I love Chelsea. I co-host George Benson's Chelsea podcast sometimes, who's the biggest Chelsea YouTuber. Massive, massive Chelsea fan. Which football? Yeah, he's a heavyweight. You got? Yeah, no, I don't got this. And he actually looked all right as well. I saw some highlights from his fight. So no, I don't think so. What? Let's move on to another topic anyway. So we talked about TKO. If anyone wants to go back and check that out. Up next, we've got Eddie Hearn's talking about the Eubank bet. Let's listen to
big video come out yesterday, Chris Eubank Jr. Offering yourself, he was offering yourself a bet of £1 million, sort of taking it away from the one that you offered Ben Shalom. Yeah, guess what was your thoughts when you did see the video?
Very clever. I think it's easy to trick the public. I mean, just to kind of make sure the public are aware that following our little laugh and a joke with Ben Shalom about the £1 million, Ben Shalom stated that, I mean, it's a good way to get out of the bet, but it was true that promoters can't bet.
Okay.
So much so that the British Boxing Board of Control recently actually sent an email, which I'll show you now. So I'll read it out because I just want to put Eubank to bed because he's one for the views. Do you know what I mean? This is from the British Boxing Board of Control regarding Regulation 30A. A member i.e. a licence holder, shall not directly or indirectly bet or permit, direct, allow or enable any person for the member's benefit or gain to bet on the result, progress, conduct of any other outcome of the connection therewith of a contest in which the member is participating or proposing to participate in any capacity of which the member has any influence, direct or indirect. And that is the reason that Chris Eubank done a video yesterday to try and get some views and some noise, because he knows I can't bet on the fight, and he knows that if I did, I would receive a fine, like him, of 100,000. And I, you know, so maybe we could do something for charity. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? But it was good. He got, listen, he did what he's all about, views and clout. He's clout chasing, and yeah, I would love to have the bet with him. But I'd also get better odds. I think Connor's 6-5.
I haven't checked the odds.
So I wouldn't take even money from him. And there's another reason I wouldn't take a bet with Chris Eubank Jr. I won't go into it right now. But yeah.
Was it anything to do with Conor Benn's comment? I see him said he's got enough bets to settle.
I'm not going into that.
Okay.
But,
okay.
Yeah.
All right, so Eddie Hearn there explaining why he's not going to have a bet with Eubank Jr. Yeah, it's a bit of a... It's an interesting one. I thought that there had been... that people had I thought that people had enough. Sorry, I thought people had done bets before in boxing between promoters and whatnot. So I guess that the rule is that you can't have a bet with the fighter, but I swear that's happened before. I'm going to Google it. I swear that has happened before. I mean, Mayweather used to bet on himself all the time. So, yeah, maybe that's a British board rule. I don't know. That's a bit weird. So, yeah, I'm not sure what that's all about. But Eddie's saying he's not going to have the bet, and Eubank is clout chasing. Look, Eubank, I've talked about this. Eubank is in complete control right now. He's in complete control. He is running rings around absolutely everybody, and I think he is promoting this fight beautifully, to be honest with you, and getting inside the head of Conor Benn at the same time. So he's absolutely smashing it, this promotion. It's very, very impressive to see. Very, very good indeed. We'll move on. Not much else to say about that, really. Navarrete will defend his WBO super featherweight title against Charlie Suarez in San Diego. Okay. Not too interested in that, to be honest with you. Keep going. This is the lad that has come into face Kambosos last minute. All right, this is what I want to talk about. So, the top 3 light heavyweights are something special from the Ring magazine there. And they've got Dmitry Bivol, number 1, Artur Beterbiev, number 2, and David Benavidez, number 3. The problem with that division is that the top 3 are special, but there's nobody else. There's absolutely nobody else really out there. I mean, the gap between those 3 and the rest is just too huge. It's too big. So, yes, they're the top 3, but there's no one even really testing and challenging that they're the top 3. And if they didn't exist in a division, it would be a bad division right now, light heavy. There's not loads there, which is probably part of the reason you've heard Bivol talking about maybe going to cruiserweight. You've heard him talking about maybe going down to 168 for the Canelo rematch. It's yeah, there's not a whole lot there. You got Callum Smith, who I think is the best of the rest in terms of the rankings at the minute. Anthony Yard, Buatsi, there's David Morrell. I think Vozdik's quite underrated. I think Vozdik's a very, very good fighter. But yeah, he's not he's obviously not at that level, and I think Vozdik probably beats the rest of them, to be honest. I genuinely think Vozdik beats the rest of them. He's ranked quite low because he's had losses, but he's lost to the best guys. So, yeah, I don't know. I do not know. But, yeah, Benavidez beating Vozdik was quite impressive to me. I thought fair play. I think Vozdik is underrated. But, yeah, those are the top 3. And, you know, I think Bivol and Beterbiev are interchangeable. I think they have 10 fights. They probably win 5 each. And they'll all be close and they'll all be controversial. Until one of them gets tired and older, which is Beterbiev. He's the one that will have less time, you would suppose. So, yeah. Get back to a few comments. KSI needs an opponent. I think KSI is fighting Dylan Dennis, which I was considering doing a reaction to that, but no one really cares. I'm just going to actually... I'm going to turn this off because I think it's affecting the stream quality. Sorry, guys. I dropped off there for a second. So, right, back to the comments. Good Ryan Garcia video, mate. But I think the sport is in big trouble if it's counting on him to be the future face of boxing. All of his apology tours seem self-serving and insincere. Yeah, and I agree with you, Mithranda. It's the lack of the proof is in the pudding, right? When you are somebody that has done things in the past that undermine your career, that compromise your integrity, that make people question whether or not you're serious and a decent person. Yeah, Ryan Garcia is a problem, but it's probably all those things that also make him so interesting. So it's difficult. It's a really difficult balance to strike, and I think he can do it, but will he do it? I'm not sure. And you're right, it does seem self-serving and insincere. I completely agree with you. He's coming off that ban. Has he actually changed anything? It's hard to say, but he did admit that he didn't have the right people around him, so you'd like to think he'd made the changes, but maybe he hasn't. Maybe he's just said he has. Who knows? All right, guys, I'm going to do another... how long have I been going for? I've been going for 25 minutes. I'm going to do another 5 minutes, and then we'll get out of here. As a non-Brit, I was kind of bored and tired of this fight hype between Eubank and Ben. Defined intrigued. I think you're definitely intrigued now. Curious, where do both fighters go after this? Will Eubank finally fight a champ? No, he won't. I want him to. I've always wanted Eubank to fight for a middleweight title. But he's just shown us time and time again that he's not interested in that. He's not interested in becoming a legitimate world champion. What he's interested in is maneuvering the business of boxing and making the most money possible for the least challenging fights. And this fight will be this will be the easiest fight for the most amount of money that he's had. I'm not saying he won't. I'm not saying he'll win at this stage, but it is the easiest fight he's had just by definition. Conor Benn hasn't even won a British title. Conor Benn is moving up 2 weight classes. Conor Benn was only good. It's seemingly only a lot better prior to popping for PEDs. So I have a strong suspicion that this might be an easy fight for Eubank, but at the same time, we need to see and wait and find out. But I think as Tay Crouch pointed out, who's someone I've worked with here in Melbourne, a boxing coach, it's a good point that Eubank's not saying anything about Ben's record or level of ability, because if he loses, and he probably is a little bit more aware now that he could lose because of that Liam Smith stoppage, he's got to cover himself. He can't come out and say how poor Ben is, and then if he takes a defeat, it'd be absolutely catastrophic. So, yeah, it's a bit of an issue. Who's your top 3 middleweights of all time? I'd have to give that some thought, but I'd have Hagler in there for sure. Possibly Sugar Ray Leonard. They fought at 160. Sugar Ray Leonard. Hearns was great, but he was more of a, he was more dominant at the lighter weights. I think Triple G is in the discussion. Unfortunately, we never saw him against like a really, really top guy while he was still in his peak. But yeah, I'd have to have a think about that one, but there's a few names for you there. Was hoping we'd get the unification between Shock and Navarrete. I don't know who Shock is. William, how many boxers are on steroids these days? Discussed it when I found out about Shane Mosley and James Toney on steroids. I haven't read about that. I'll be honest with you. I've not read about Mosley and Toney being on steroids. But we don't really know. We don't really know. It could be one of those great conspiracy theories that's sort of put out there to kind of create mystery and excitement and hype. Or it could be very realistic that most boxers are doing it. I would not be surprised either way, because it is such a wild, wild west. And a lot of fighters have popped for it. And it just sort of makes you think, are they just the ones that don't have the best doctors? It's worrying. And when you hear all this stuff recently about this doctor who has been banned by the board from working with fighters, whose fighters have been popping, it does make you worried. And I'm thinking about doing an expose on this guy, because I love the way, I don't know if any of you watch CoffeeZilla, I love the way he does his investigative journalism pieces. I would really like to start bringing that style of video to boxing. I think it's something I could do really well. So just got to find the right topic and the right thing, but that could be a potential topic. Aaron Pryor cheated against the late great Alexis Arguello. Give me the one that I mixed. Give me the one that I mixed. I don't know what that means. Thoughts on Dmitry Pirog? I don't know who Dmitry Pirog is. Let me have a look. Dmitry Pirog, BoxRec. He's a middleweight. Oh, retired. I never watched this guy, mate. And I fought Danny Jacobs. All right. Yeah, I never watched him. I mean, maybe I watched him fight Jacobs and I've forgotten, but yeah, I guess he had a quick end to his career, did he? I need to go and learn more about him. Mithrandir. Personally, I wanted to see Boots destroy Ben, but Stanionis is the better fight for Jaron, honestly. Well, he's got a belt, hasn't he? So that's why that's been made. I would also like to see Boots against Ben. I think that would be a really, really good fight. And I think Ben has a chance because, honestly, what I've seen from Boots recently, he just is too big at 147. I think the reason they're looking to unify, actually, is because then he can be unified champion. And then I think he'll drop the IBF belt if he wins. Yeah, I think he'll drop the IBF belt if he wins because it's that rehydration issue for him. I think that's what's bothering him. I think he can make 147, but the fact he can't rehydrate the next day fully because of that check weight is the biggest issue there. So, yeah, I believe that that Boots can still do 147, but all the fights are at 154. They're all at 154. So, but having said that, if he can hang on at 147, there's guys that are going to come up to that weight. Ryan Garcia will be there at some point. Devin Haney will be there at some point. Josh Taylor is now there. There's some fighters that are moving into the 147 division that he can fight. So, yeah, if he can hang on, then, why not? That sounds interesting with obviously a piece on Victor Conti. Yeah, that would be interesting too. I mean, this is the biggest problem with this stuff is that you never want to get sued. I know that a lot of these investigative journalists, YouTubers, have insurance policies that cover them from being sued. So, yeah, I don't have the resources to do that right now. So if I did anything, it would have to be completely fact-based. I would not be able to do anything that was speculative. I'd have to provide straight facts that were in the public domain. So, yeah. Any tips that you have for fighting a taller southpaw? Well, Alex Samsonov, it depends entirely on what kind of fighter you are. But, I mean, the first thing to tackle there is the height. It depends on what their habits are and how they approach being taller. Some tall fighters don't fight long. But the best thing you can do is get your head off the center line. Just continuously get your head off the center line. And what I'd also say is don't follow them around the ring. If they're boxing on the back foot and they're using their jab, don't just follow them blindly and walk onto the jab, walk onto shots. It's really important that you feint as well and you create indecision in them as to when you're actually going to try and close the gap. That's what's important. So the height is the first thing, and again, how they use it. The southpaw is the other part of that. The conventional wisdom with a southpaw is that you want to move away from their backhand and move them onto your backhand. So you want to move in a clockwise direction so that your head is going to the outside of their lead hand, their right hand, their jab. And then in doing so, you're creating a position where their center line is right in line with your backhand as an orthodox fighter. So that's the general idea. You want to move in a clockwise direction as much as possible. But, you also need to be careful with that because if you're too predictable, they will cut. Well, if a good fighter will land hooks to you and stop you and try to stop you moving in that direction, they're trying to go the other way. They're trying to walk you onto their backhand. So it really just depends on what kind of fighter they are. There's tall guys that are still inside fighters. So it depends what they want to do with you. But those are the two basic pieces of advice that I can give you there. And I think also the lead left hook is a useful shot over the top of that right jab. That's the closest hand that you have to them. And the difference with that and another orthodox fighter is your backhand is always in line with your jab hand is always in line with their backhand. Whereas with the southpaw, one thing you see Usyk do a lot is fire his jab over his opponent's lead hand. It's something you can do vice versa. The orthodox can do it to the southpaw. So that's a couple of things to consider. There's lots of things you can do. But again, it just depends on how they use that southpaw stance. It depends on how they use their height. And it also depends on how side on they are. Some fighters can be southpaw but still be quite square. And that changes things for sure. But if they're very side on, then for sure that conventional wisdom, I think, is the best. Amir Khan was very good at doing it. I think, was it Devin Alexander who he fought who was a southpaw? I believe Devin Alexander was a southpaw. If you want to go and watch a really good display, a really disciplined display of boxing, yeah, Go and watch Amir Khan against Devin Alexander. I thought that was a great Orthodox versus Southpaw performance. Let's have another quick look at what else is going on here, and then I've got to get out of here because I've got a wedding today. Thursday wedding, guys. Madness. The card for the Chris Eubank Conor Benn fight is looking stacked. I've got to say, I hate this Fatal Fury branding. I think it's so dumb. It's like you've got this incredible historical fight between two, sons of legends. And, rather than branding it around that, you're branding it based on a video game. It's just a bit crap, isn't it? But, whatever. By the way, guys, please bang a like on the stream if you're new. And if anybody wants to ask a specific question to change how I'm talking, do send a super chat. And I will get to you first. Okay, so yeah, the undercard is this. I mean, it's not stacked, really. Vidal Riley against Chev Clark, I'm very interested in because I think Vidal Riley is very, very good. I don't know if he's the biggest puncher, but yeah, I don't know if he's the biggest puncher, but I think he's got loads of skills. And everybody I talked to who was on GB says how good Vidal Riley was. Everyone says he was an absolutely excellent fighter. So I'm intrigued by Vidal, and I think that Chev Clark fight is a good test for him. Billum Smith against Glanton. I don't know who Glanton is. Never heard of him before. And I think for Billum Smith, it's all about getting a win and getting back in, coming back and getting that W on his record after that defeat against Zerdo, which was a bit of a beatdown, to be honest. McKenna against Smith. Well, it depends what Liam Smith has left, but that could be a really good scrap. But as I say, it entirely depends what Liam Smith has left. They are betting on the fact that he's done, I think. And Lyndon Arthur against Anthony Yard, the trilogy that nobody asked for. Everybody wants Anthony Yard to kick on. I like Lyndon Arthur, but does he deserve that rematch? I mean, I guess they had one win each, but it was a pretty conclusive win for Yard in the rematch. And I guess it's just like getting Anthony Yard out there again against somebody that's like, well, this is an opponent you could fight. And I think if Yard wins that, they've got to make a good fight for him. He's right at the end of his career now, in my opinion. And I think the Callum Smith fight is the one that makes sense after this. And then try and, if you can win that, try and get him a shot against one of the top three guys. There's also David Morrell. And as I say, light heavy's not great at the minute, so they need him in the mix. And then Eubank Jr. versus Ben, which is what we're all really here for, and that is where the majority of the money on this one will be going. Anything else to talk about? Just a random post about Emmanuel Stewart. Oh yeah, this video. I won't put the sound on because it's got music in it, and I don't want to get a copyright strike. But Joseph Parker's done a video to call out Alexander Usyk, which I think Parker's great at these, and it adds a lot of humor to things. And yeah, it's hilarious. I think it's great. Great stuff. Great way to promote a fight. Try and get yourself the matchup that you want. But, will he get that fight? I think they've made it pretty clear they want Dubois. So, look, either way, he's going to get a shot for a title, and that's the important thing. And he will get a shot for a title. I'm convinced he will. He's been ordered by the WBO to fight. So, once that belt is vacated, which I believe it will be, he'll get to fight for a vacant WBO title. And I think there's a very good chance he wins it, whoever it's against. Because he probably is the best of the rest right now, Joseph Parker. What else have we got? George Kambosos is fighting, but I'm not too interested in hearing him talk about other fighters right now. This was the face-off. I thought the aesthetic for this was actually pretty cool. It looks like they're doing it in a gym. And it feels like a kind of club fight. It's pretty cool. But the guy he's fighting looks kind of terrified, to be honest with you. And he'll never have been anywhere near this level before. Sky Nicholson and Tiara Brown. Again, I honestly, guys, I think Sky Nicholson is really talented. I've watched her, but I just don't really follow the women's sport because the fighters in it are just, there's no depth. So there's not much to get into with it. So until the sport's got a bit more depth to it, I'm probably not going to bother covering it. Again, nothing against women fighting, nothing against Sky Nicholson. It's just not that interesting because it's like, oh, you're beating someone, I don't know who they are. I don't know where you go from here. And there's not really any knockouts. So it's just not a particularly interesting sport to me at the moment. I'll cover Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano because we know how good those two are. There's a depth of quality there. They've done things in the sport. And because they've fought a couple times already, we know that the fight is going to be a good matchup. So yeah, I don't have a problem with that. But generally speaking, I'm not too interested in women's boxing. Igor Klimas told The Ring that he believes Lomachenko would be the best opponent to fight Tank. Well, I'm sure he would be, but does Loma actually want to fight? Because apparently he was offered the fight and said no. But Loma Tank would be a massive fight. Loma Tank would be an absolutely fantastic fight. And who doesn't want to see that? You know, who doesn't want to see that? I think that, I think that a good Loma would beat Tank for sure. I'm pretty confident in that prediction. Because I think that Tank, you saw it with Lamont Roach. Tank Davis is waiting for you to make a mistake. And a fully switched on Loma would be a lot for Tank Davis. He would. At the same time, Loma can be hit. He's been hit. He was hit by Linares. He was knocked down by Linares. So it's entirely possible that Tank could land something. And it would have been a great fight. I think the guy that I think the fight what people want to see is Shakur Stevenson. And it's like people want to see it because it's probably the best fight you can make, but also not enough want to see that versus him fighting another guy. The money, extra financial incentive is not enough to get him to fight Shakur Stevenson, when I think it would be a horrible fight. And I think Shakur Stevenson will probably win, and then he'll take his mantle, and then he'll go off and continue to be a very, very negative fighter. Shakur Stevenson's immensely talented, but he is not that fun to watch, unfortunately. Couple more. Jermaine Ortiz, I don't know who Jermaine Ortiz is, working on his defense with a unique boxing drill. Well, the actual slipping isn't unique. You see that all the time, but I guess it's the elastic attached to the head guard that is unique, and it's quite clever actually. It increases resistance. It's probably increasing his endurance in those movements. So yeah, it's quite smart. I quite like it. All right, last one. Andy Lee tells The Ring that Joseph Parker's aim is to challenge Alexander Usyk. We know this. I think Andy Lee is a really good coach, a really interesting coach. Definitely favors lateral movement in his fighters, and we've seen how well that's worked for Parker, just keeping him on that game. It's definitely the best style for him. It's the best way for him to fight, although he is also adaptable. We saw Parker on the front foot against Deontay Wilder. For me, I just want to make it very clear. Usyk is not ducking Parker by any stretch of the imagination. But out of the two of those men, Dubois and Parker, Dubois has got the better run right now. I know people don't want to say that. I know it's fashionable to say that Dubois is a duck and that Parker is the kind of dark horse of the division, the can man, the guy that people are avoiding. It's simply not true, and I think that Usyk would definitely fight Parker. It's just that out of the two of them, Dubois is the bigger challenge, and they've got that history, the fake controversy with the low blow that wasn't a low blow. So I can understand why Usyk's choosing the Dubois fight, and it's unfortunate for Parker, but personally, I'd rather see the Parker fight, nothing to do with the politics around it, just because it's something new and fresh. It's a new style for Usyk to deal with, and I would just rather see that. I think it'd be much more interesting. So yeah, but guys, I've just rattled through this today. I'm going to stay for 3 more minutes. If anyone's got any more questions for me, anything you want to ask me about me before we go, we'll do 5 minutes on me before I go, and then I'm going to get out of here. So any questions you have that you want the answer to, I'm going to give you a minute to get them in the chat, and if there's something interesting there, I'll answer it. If not, there's only a few people in here now, so I'm gonna get on out of here because I've got to get on with my day. I'm in Melbourne. So Ghetto Genius, how it going, Henry? Well, it's going all right, mate. It's going all right. I'm working very, very hard at the moment, which, that's fine. We all have to do that. I have my own business. I'm trying to have my own business, so doing YouTube at the same time is difficult. And what I find frustrating about boxing is it's not like there's something to talk about every day. And I want to be more consistent, but I don't want to make dead videos either. Like even that Ryan Garcia video I just made, which I thought could have been quite a good one to do. It's not exactly massively topical. But what the hell was I even saying? Yeah, the Ryan Garcia video. It's not even massively topical right now, Ryan Garcia, but at the same time, I thought it would perform well because he's got a big name, but that video won't do that well. I know it won't. So for me, doing this YouTube thing, it's all about how do I make this more consistent? So let's see what else we got. Where do you rank Nigel Benn? He's an all-time great at middleweight for sure. He lost, but he was an absolute savage. And I wasn't a boxing fan. I'm too young to have been a boxing fan through that era. My family are not into boxing, so I only found it later in life. But, you go back and you watch and you can see how ferocious he was. Who do you think is the best lightweight right now? Let's pull up the lightweight rankings. Let's have a look. Okay. So Loma is still ranked. I don't even know if he's going to fight again, but Shakur. Okay. I think that. I mean, to me, I've thought Lamont Roach beat Gervonta Davis. Or did I score it a draw? I can't remember. I've been watching so much boxing recently. I can't even remember what I scored the fight. I think I scored it to Roach by a round. I still think it's Lomachenko. I know that might be controversial because he's got 3 losses. But the loss to Tio was extremely close. The loss to Devin Haney, I thought was bollocks, to be honest with you. I mean, I guess, we're talking prime Loma, to be fair. Yeah, at this point, he probably isn't the best anymore. Yeah, there was the Devin Haney loss, the Tio loss. Oh, yeah, and then he had that Orlando Salido loss earlier in his career. It's a difficult one. I still think it's Loma based on his form. I thought he beat Haney, he beat George Kambosos, and it's one of them. I can say that. People can disagree with me. It's probably still Tank. He had a bad performance against Roach, but I think he could beat him in a rematch. So it's Tank or Loma. Shakur is unbelievable. It depends how you define best. If it's an all-encompassing package, it's hard to say. It's hard to say Shakur because at the end of the day, he's so defensive. I don't know, man. But yeah, I'd say Loma myself in terms of all-round, entertainment, ability, all that stuff. Bit late. Have you spoke about the wages to Tico? Yeah, I have, mate. I have. Actually, I'll make a video about that. Probably not today because I've got this wedding, but later, tomorrow. Yeah, have a look at it. Earlier in the live, we talked about it. It was the first thing I talked about. ATR, big up, mate. Just jumped on. Have a good day. Yeah, you too, mate. Have you had any matches or been involved in the amateurs? No, I have not. I haven't even sparred that much. So that is what my aim is for the next sort of 6 months, is to get really, see how good I can get, basically. Train more sparring. I'm not asked about fighting, to be honest with you. I want to have some good, hard competitive spars. And I might have a fight, but I like the pros. This is the thing, and I know you can't go straight into the pros. I don't really like the amateurs that much. It just doesn't. It's so fast paced, and there's not as many knockouts, and I just don't like it as much. It's over so quickly. Professional boxing is way more of a chess match. There's way more time to set traps. It's a much more of a paced thing. Yeah, I just so much prefer the pros. So it doesn't massively interest me, but maybe I won't rule anything out. Reckon we will win the Conference League, and how did you meet George? We have to win the Conference League. This is Chelsea. Alvo is talking about. And how did I meet George? Well, I lived in Bali for 2 years before I moved to Australia. And I met George in a bar one night randomly, and I saw him, and I was like, oh, I watched this guy's YouTube channel. And I went over and said hello to him. And yeah, and we just started watching the games together, and we became mates. And then we made a studio together in Bali. And yeah, we lived together for a bit as well. George is a great guy. Absolute legend. And yeah, any Chelsea fans, go over to George's channel, GBFC. And who's also actually go and subscribe to more GBFC. That's his second channel now, where he's talking about all football. What's your thoughts on the number of weight divisions we have in boxing? Do you think we should maintain at least 6 to 8 pounds difference per division up to super middleweight? Well, Hanif, it's a good question. I think that what we have to consider is in those lower weight divisions, a couple of pounds means more because it's a higher percentage of your body mass versus a guy who's a lot bigger. 2 pounds doesn't mean as much to a guy who's 180 versus a guy who's like 120 because it's a higher percentage of their weight. So that's why they have more weights with a closer gap. But at the same time, it's just not that much of a spectacle, and the really good guys can go through those divisions. So yeah, I think you could probably get rid of a few of the lighter weights and consolidate them into more of one weight class. Looking at the TKO divisions that are proposed, allegedly, there's no cruiserweight, and I think that gap from light heavyweight to heavyweight is too big. But yeah, I think less divisions lower down, maybe a couple less would be a potentially helpful thing to do. Okay, last one. I'm a casual. Loma was the one who got me interested. He was like the Messi of boxing for me. Yeah, man. The Matrix, as they called him. And Loma is still very, very good. We just don't know what he's got left. And his hunger may not be the same. But I would like to see Loma against someone significant One more for the road. Anyway, guys, hope you've enjoyed the live stream. Please subscribe if you're new, bang a like on the video, and I will be releasing more content as ever. But at the minute, there's not that much to talk about. I'm going to start doing some more game form analysis videos because I know you guys love them. It's just about timing them correctly so that they actually do the numbers they deserve, because this is a time investment at the end of the day. But anyway, hope you've enjoyed the stream, and I'll catch you on the next one.